state wants something, go ahead and have it.
So if everyone in Alabama wanted slavery back, you'd be okay with that?
Sure. If everyone in the state wants it, go ahead.
Slavery is still legal in America, and it's on the November ballot in 5 states: Louisiana, Alabama, Tennessee, and Oregon. Yeah, you read that correctly. Shout out to Hollywood Unlocked. Slavery is on the ballot for 5 different states. And just to clarify, so you know what I'm talking about, on November 8th, voters in Alabama, Louisiana, Oregon, Tennessee, and Vermont will decide whether to remove this punishment exception for involuntary servitude from their state constitution. And for y'all that don't know, the 13th Amendment reads, the United States federal government shall prohibit slavery except for punishment and conviction of crime. It is not ironic that the descendants of slaves are most likely to find themselves convicted in a punishment of crime. If you live in Alabama, man, make sure you get registered to vote by October 24th. If you live in Louisiana, make sure you register to vote by October 11th. If you live in Oregon, make sure you register to vote by October 18th. If you live in Tennessee, make sure you register to vote by October 11th. You gotta have the same energy, and not more energy, than we had for presidential elections during this midterm election, because history right here, I'm not.
Let's cut the shit. Slavery in America wasn't just about forced labor. It was about forced birth. America didn't just work enslave people to death. It bred them. And not like people, like livestock. If the transatlantic slave trade was the kidnapping, breeding plantations were the farm. And I said what I said. After the transatlantic slave trade was banned in 1808, the U.S. had a problem. They still wanted the free labor, but they had no more legal supply. Their solution? Turn black wombs into factories, breeding plantations, and yes, they were called that, were designed specifically to reproduce more enslaved people. The goal wasn't to grow food, it wasn't to pick cotton, it was to force women to give birth to more product, because that's what we were, product. Black women weren't seen as mothers, they were uteruses with a resale value. Their fertility, that was the commodity, and their babies, assets on a ledger. Let's be real, this was organized. Some enslavers forced women to have 10, 12, 15 children, not out of love, but out of cold-blooded capitalism. Some kept track of their pregnancies like breeding dogs. Black girls, as young as 13, were to kickstart their production. If they couldn't reproduce, they were often whipped, sold, or killed. And don't you dare forget about the men. Black men were used as studs. That's literally the word they used. They were, too, forced to mate with women chosen by their enslaver, sometimes their own family, sometimes multiple women in a row. Consent was a fantasy, trauma was the norm, and the goal was always profit. Virginia, Maryland, and parts of North Carolina became baby farms for the Deep South. And once those babies hit a certain age, they were sold down the river, often with chains still attached to their mother's arms. This is the legacy that birthed America's wealth. Families like the Taylors, the Ball family, and others made millions off of children born from these violent systems. Wall Street was built to insure and trade these bodies. And if you're wondering why Black women still aren't believed about our pain, well, we're 3 times more likely to die in childbirth. This is the root. Doctors experimented on those same women without anesthesia. Gynecology was literally founded on the abuse of Black wombs. So no, slavery wasn't just labor. It was a full-blown human breeding industry. And if that makes you uncomfortable, it should, because America wasn't built by accident. It was built with intentional, systemic, with generational torture passed off as policy. And the fact that you can visit some of these plantations today and see wedding venues instead of crime scenes, that tells you everything about what this country values. Not justice, not truth, just comfort for white folks. But we're not going to be quiet about it. We're not going to soften the language anymore. And we're not going to let the history die just because they're ashamed of it. This happened, and now they're going to hear about it every damn time we speak.